Well, hi folks, and I hope you're all keeping well. Thanks again for deciding to give this video a watch, it's very much appreciated. And as are all the new subscribers and all the likes and comments as well. And don't forget, if you do like this stuff that I'm doing, if you subscribe to the channel, it encourages me to do more, let's say. We'll leave it at that. Because only about 20% of people that watch these videos actually subscribe to them, so I'm just wondering why that is, but maybe you could tell me. Anyway, I'm going to show you today how I did this recent version of Our Friends Electric that I put on YouTube. Seemed to generate quite a bit of interest. I did do this one a long time ago, and the video tutorial for it has had lots of watches, but I thought I needed to redo this and revisit it and show you a little bit more how to do it. The main reason why I did it actually, I was playing around, so stop that there, I was playing around with this old Juno D keyboard here, playing around with some of the sounds on it, and I came across this wonderful sound called deep syn brass sound, which I use for the lead sound. So if I let me just turn it up a little bit. Here we go. There we go. So that main sort of lead sound that you're hearing, I'm actually playing it on this. So this is actually coming from here. Although you can get a similar sound on the Roland JDXI. You can't get the width of the keyboard. We've only got 3 octaves on here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Got 5 on here, so I can actually play these bass chords and then play the lead lines up here from one octave above and then 2 octaves above to get that nice sound in there. So as I say, you can do something similar on the Juno. I'm keep calling it a Juno, the JDXI, but it doesn't quite sound as good as that. But there we go. If you've got an additional keyboard that's got more than 3 octaves, you might be able to reproduce that sound on that as well. Anyway, enough of the waffle. Let's start showing you what we're going to do. So I thought I'd split it up into 2 parts. Rather than showing you trying to cram it in all into one video, I'm going to break it up into 2 parts. So this video will concentrate on the first 2 sequences. So it's still made up of 4 sequences, and the sequences are we've got the sequences set up here as favourites on the JDXI. So I'll just play you the sequences as we've got them so far. So here's sequence number 1. That's a repeating 2 measure sequence. Sequence number 2. So that's a repeating 1 measure sequence. Now we've got sequence number 3. A repeating 2 measure sequence, and then we've got sequence number 4. Okay, so today I'm going to show you how I did sequences numbers 1 and number 2. So let's have a look at number 1 to start with. So we'll look at the drum pattern to start with, I think. So let me just isolate the drums for you. So this drum pattern is quite a bit different to that first cover version that I did about 4 years ago. I listened more closely to the original recording of Our Friends Electric, and also watched a few drumming tutorials about the song on YouTube, and that's how I came up with this new pattern. It's not terribly different from the original one, but there are some subtle differences going on in there. So let's look at it, what we've got here. So tempo is slightly different to the first version I did. So the tempo on this new version is 94 beats per minute. It's still using the 16 notes of the sequencer, so it's a 1/16 pattern. As I say, we've got most of them are 2 measures, but there is a 1 measure pattern in there as well, so we'll cover that in a moment. So the first, this drum pattern, let's show you how we did that. So we've got the kit that we're using is the 707 and 727 kit 1, which I think is the same one that we used in the, or I used in the original cover version I did 4 years ago. So the drums are, bass drum 1 is on positions 1, 3, 9, 11 of measure 1, and the same in measure 2. And as always, what I'll do, I'll put this information in the description for the video. We've got snare drum 2. Snare drum 2 is on positions 5 and 13 in both measures 1 and measure 2. We've got the partial hi-hat. Partial hi-hat is on positions 7 and 15 in both measures. We've got then the closed hi-hat. Now the closed hi-hat appears in the first measure. It's on 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, 9, 10, 11, 12 and 13, and in measure 2 it's on 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but then it's on 9, 10 through to 16, so it's all those last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 positions on the sequencer. And finally we've got this thing called percussion 2, which comes in on position 7 and 15 in measure 1 and 7 and 15 in measure 2. So if I just turn them all down to start with, and then we'll just build them up, let you have a listen to them as they come in. So here we go. So bass drum 1, snare drum 2, open hi-hat, sorry, partial hi-hat, closed hi-hat, and then percussion 2. And what I would suggest you do is just play about with the levels. They don't all want to be at the same level, so you need to mix some down and mix some higher in the final mix. So that's the drum pattern. Now we've got bass in this one. So in the original version I didn't do this bass guitar sound, which I quite like. So let's just isolate that bass guitar for you to start with. So again, what I'll do, I'll write these notes down in the description, but basically we've got the instrument is called the fingered bass 1, which you'll find in the bass settings on the JDXI, and we're not shifting the octave, so it's basically staying at the standard octave position, and we're playing C, B flat, so it's going C flat, C down to B flat, then it does this run. So it does that run. So it's using the same notes almost on the sequence here. So we're going 1, 3, 8, 9, 11 and 16 in the first measure. In the second measure it's going 1, 3, 8, 9, 11, 13 and 15 for that extra run at the end. So what I'll do in the description, I'll write that down for you. There's a couple of ways of recording this. I would probably suggest you did it in real time. You could use the step recorder. Just show you, it's fairly easy to do it in real time. play it in real time for you. So that's how you'd record this. In fact, let me just do it for you. We'll just erase it, show you how easy it is to do. So here we go. Let's play the drums, and let's switch the recorder on. There we go. There we go. So it would be as simple as that to do that. And then the next one we're going to do is the analog synth. Now the analog synth sounds like this. So the analog synth sound is now I've no idea where I got this tone from originally, because it's using the same tone that I used in the original version of Our Friends Electric that I did, and it's called Analog Tone. So it must be in one of the demonstration songs that's on the JDXI. However, it is very easy to recreate it. If you go into the analog and then just go into the tones, just go all the way to the very end, and you'll come to a thing called, I think it's called Init tone, initializing tone. And basically all we're going to do with it, we're going to turn the sub oscillator on. We're going to put the flanger to about 10 o'clock, so it wants to be at about the 10 o'clock position. We want delay around about 2 and the reverb at 100%, and the levels just adjust the level accordingly. So we'll just play. Very similar to the bass. So again, all three together sound like this. And then the lead sound on top of that, so for that sound I'm using the lead sound called Tekno Lead 1, which you'll find in the lead bank here, and I'm just playing around with the portamento. So to turn the portamento on, if you press the menu button and hold it down, you'll get the portamento settings. It wants to be obviously switched on, and the timing, I've got it set to 40. You can experiment with that. You might want it a bit longer or a bit shorter. It's entirely up to you. It's your cover version, so you do it how you want. So that's how I've got mine set up. And what I'm doing there, I'm just pressing the G key in the very centre of the keyboard, and then pressing the G 1 octave up, letting it glide up, then letting it glide back down again all the way to the bottom. So when it's played with the pattern, that's how you do that. Now the sound, this, let's turn that down a little bit. Now to get that sound on the JDXI, I found that if you go into the sequence bank over here, there's a sound or a setting called S-Saw Poly. And it's, to start with, it doesn't sound right, but if you bring it down a couple, bring it down, how many octaves? 1 octave down. Play it with the pattern. You could play it on the JDXI, experiment around a little bit with it. You could even program it in if you didn't want to put that that other sound, this lead sound on top of it. If you didn't want to put that on, you could actually sequence it as well if you wanted to. Again, it's entirely up to you. So that's the first pattern. There is some guitar going on in there as well. And obviously the vocals come in also. So let's have a look at the second pattern. We'll just go to the next pattern here and have a listen to that. So this is a repeating 1 measure pattern. It's using all of the same sounds as well that we had in there before. All the same fingered bass and analog tone. So the drum pattern for this, if we just isolate that to start with. Turn the page, and so the drum kit, the bass drum sound is very similar. It's just 1, 3, 9, 11. The snare drum is on 5 and 13. The closed hi-hat is on 1, 2, 3 and 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15 and 16. So that's slightly different to the first one. And then we've got the partial hi-hat on 5 and 13, and then this percussion 2 sound on 5 and 13 also. The bass sound, the bass guitar sound that we've got, let's just turn that on. Now we're playing F notes for this, so it's just repeating these 1, 3, 9, 11 is just F notes. And again, I suggest you record that. You could do it with a step recorder, but I think most people can just hammer along on 1 note. Quite easy to do. And finally, the last sequence sound is this analog synth sound, this analog tone. And again, the analog sound is just using the, so it's using that same pattern there. Bring all 3 together. Now the lead sound on top of it that I'm playing down here, this is where it really does come into its own, because we go down another octave. So I'm going right down to playing this very low F sound here, and I'm playing right up here on the keyboard. So that's what I'm playing on here. So you couldn't do that on the JDXI with the full octaves. But you can do it, if we just go back into that sound setting again, you can so you can make it sound like that, or you shift it up 1 octave. Play it along with the pattern. Sorry. that's what you could do with the JDXI. And again, if you wanted to, you could actually sequence that as well. It wouldn't be too difficult to record that because it is the same repeating pattern. No, it's not. It's different, isn't it? It's no, it's over two. You could sequence it, I suppose, but you just extend the pattern. So instead of just having a repeating one measure pattern, you'd have a repeating two measure pattern in there. Now, in the recording that I did for this, I put a guitar in there, so there's a guitar sound coming in. See if I can just find it for you. So that guitar sound, that's obviously it's a real guitar, but the guitar sound on the JDXI is quite good also. So you could. So you're just playing these two notes here. You're playing an F and a C. So you could, if you've got the facility to record it either onto a multi-track or onto your computer or whatever, you could record that distorted guitar sound. Record that in there. So that completes these first two parts of Our Friends Electric, and again, hopefully next week I'll bring you second part and show you how it all comes together. Anyway, thanks very much for watching, and don't forget, if you like this stuff that I'm doing, hit that subscribe button. It would be very much appreciated if you've made it through to the end. Also, I've noticed that people only average viewing time is only about 3 or 4 minutes, which, when it's considering most of these are like 20 minutes long, seems very very odd, but there you go. Anyway, take care. I wish you all the best, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.